Hello, thank you for joining us tonight on this Saturday for a special workshop with Dave and Rosanna Lin. So, tonight they're going to talk about the challenges of building a Great Commission family. So, as you recall, last October they were here with us and they talk about joint example from their life. What does it mean to be a Great Commission family? And that was a great, fascinating talk. And now they are back and they're talking about the challenges thereof and how do we overcome those challenges. So it should be a very interesting talk, and I'm looking forward to that. So the format for tonight is going to be we're going to take an hour for the talk, some recording message recording by the lens, and then uh, the last 15 minutes after the talk, actually there will be a question and answer time, but it will be on another link, on a Zoom link. So we could give you more details later at the end of the recording. So Dave and Rosanna, of course, in terms of their bios, they met each other at MIT, and after working here for a few years, they took their boys and went to live in a East Asia country for some 10 years. And they raised the kids there, so the whole family are fully bilingual. And they had a great time serving God there, as well as when they were back 2013. Uh, they came back and Dave took a job with Microsoft Corporation, and the boys started going to college, and but they maintain a good relationship with them, and the family served together. So that is wonderful. So without further ado, I am presenting to you Dave and Rosanna Lin.
Hi, everybody. We are recording this session from Seattle, and hopefully, we'll be joining you guys afterwards for Q&A.
Yes, greetings from Seattle. It's a beautiful day outside, and
Yes.
we're looking forward to having the conversation with you. So, of course, we'd rather be there in person, but given what's going on right now, we can only meet you online, and hopefully, it will be a very effective time together. So,
Yes.
we're looking forward to just communicating what God has put on our heart and sharing that with you, and then having a Q&A session together.
Yes. Tonight's topic is going to be on the challenges of becoming a Great Commission family. There is a session simultaneously going on in Chinese that we've also pre-recorded on the same topic, and hopefully when we come back for Q&A, it will be bilingual. So without further ado, we'll go into our content. First of all, I just wanted to review with you all the what we shared last year, because the last time we came down to speak at a missions conference, we spoke about the many amazing stories of how God worked in our family. And I just wanted to start by recapping what we had shared very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So the first area where the Lord really worked with us in is in the area of music and worship.
Right.
David and I started dating with him teaching me guitar, and we've as long as we've known each other, we've always led worship. And that didn't stop when our kids were born, and they just became part of our Lin family band. And today, I would say that's still our primary identity. We are a family of worshipers, and the Lord has enabled us to serve together through music. The second area where the Lord really multiplied fruit is in the area of prayer. And our children, from the time they were very young, were praying very bold prayers of faith and teaching us a lot about praying prayers of faith. So, this is an area where we have ministered together as a family, served together as a Great Commission family. And in fact, we still pray with our kids regularly online, even though we all live in different parts of the country. Another area where we have served together is in the area of the poor, and started with when our kids were 4 and 2, Caleb and Jonathan, and we would go down and stay in a Mexican orphanage for a week at a time. And this became a lifestyle where we serve the poor together as a family. And last year in our session, we shared about Will's story, where I'm sure many of us today have these Compassionate International World Vision kids that we sponsor. Well, Will was one of the kids that we sponsored, and we helped him with his tuition each year, but he also, their family became our family friend. And as a result, his life was transformed as a result of being part of our family, and our lives were transformed as well. And Will is now back in his hometown of Uwei in Gansu, also serving his community as a result.
But we didn't simply just pick out a child, just sponsor online. We
No.
actually met him
Yes,
in one of our family short-term projects
yes,
to the western parts of East Asia. So during that time of short-term missions, we met this young man, and God just brought us together.
yes. And he's been sort of like a fourth member of the Lin Boys ever since then. And we would go out and teach English in Gansu every year, and we would see him there. And then when he was going to college, he would come and work in our compound as a security guard for summer. So that's another area where the Lord has blessed us. And another area where the Lord has blessed us is in the area of giving to the domain of education. And we've had some exciting stories about how God has called us to empty our bank accounts for a college tuition, a seminary tuition. And at the end, when we moved to China, He allowed us to speak into the area of education. Through the books I published and the talks that we gave as MIT's head interviewer in China.
In case you're wondering what that funny picture that you're seeing on screen, the rooftop air conditioning unit, just really quick, that's a story of how we defer the repair of that rooftop unit when we wanted to set aside that money to pay for a scholarship, pay for a young person who needed the money to cover the tuition. I believe it was a seminary student, right?
No, it was a college student.
It was a college student?
Yes.
Yeah, so she needed the money, and we decided, hey, instead of repairing, but what happens, God healed the
heater.
This rooftop heater, so that we didn't have to lose heat when we set aside that money and gave that away.
Yes, it's actually quite an exciting story because we got quite a few cycles of miracles out of that. We don't have time to elaborate, but those of you who were in attendance last year will remember that exciting story.
Yeah. So what you kind of see weaving together in these little stories that we're summarizing is just that these are things that God deposited in our lives. We were simply faithful in walking them out. I'm sure each one of you have these interests or desires or abilities that you can give away quite easily. It is in walking that out, with your kids and bringing the family together to do that together that you will see God just blessing through your actions, right? So we don't just want to accumulate knowledge. We want to take what we have learned and heard and actually go out there and do something about it.
Yes. So to summarize, it was the talk was about families serving together and being kingdom-driven families, and how the Lord has honored our desire by giving us many amazing testimonies and miracles along the way. So what happened was, after the talk, many people came and talked to us about, we wish we could be a family like that on a faith adventure together. Well, how do we become like your family? But what we wanted to do was also not just talk about the miracles, but also about the challenges we encountered along the way in wanting to become a great commissioner or a kingdom-driven family. Some of the challenges we met.
So with this session today, we want to kind of peel back the cover a bit to show you, right? The Lin family is not always all together, right? Like as much as our heart's desire is to serve the Lord and make Him first and make Him known, but we have a lot of struggles because we are just like everybody else.
Yes.
Our families have conflicts, we fight, we have differences, our kids don't always listen, teenagers rebel, they want to do their own thing. So today we're going to peel back and talk about 3 major challenges that we face, and I'm sure you would also face, if not you're facing already. And then we're going to talk about how we navigate through them.
Yes. Hopefully the lessons we have learned will help many of you who are listening to avoid the same pitfalls that we were in,
Right.
and to have more amazing stories to tell.
Yes.
So, to share some of the lessons we shared from last year, just to give us a point of focus on why we're learning about these challenges and lessons. The first one is that we really deeply believe that just as in the days of Noah,
Right.
the Lord set up the family as an ark of refuge for the storms that are coming down upon the earth. Just as in the days of Noah, we are facing unprecedented challenges and floods. And the Lord, again, just as He has called Noah's family, He's called our families to be an ark of refuge for many. So, in order for us to be a kingdom driven family, to be an ark for others, we really need to know that we are on a battleship and not on a cruise ship. 1 Peter 5:8 says, "Be sober minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour." So, did you know that if your family is not experiencing attacks from Satan, you're probably on the cruise ship looking to enjoy your buffets. So, if your family is meeting unprecedented challenges, that's also normal. So, we just want to reassure you that it is a battle, but we are on the battleship. In order for our families to be the ark that it's supposed to be, we need to equip ourselves to be that battleship.
Right. Now we don't have controls of, our neighbors, our friends, and our associates. However, I think God gave us the family. As parents, we have the responsibility as well as the authority over our children. So as a family, we can really bring a better alignment
Mm-hmm.
about who we are, what we do, what God has called us to be. That's why families is the way God has built uh, the vehicles to really help others to be saved and to meet
Mm-hmm.
Jesus in the
Yes.
process. So let's talk about the first challenge, right? The challenge that we struggle with,
Yes.
and was just making time to connect.
Yes.
And we talk about quality time spent with the kids, but we chose the word connect very purposely because
Mhm.
we don't want to just screw up have a hey, how you doing, let's watch a movie together, right? I mean, we can do that. Is that quality time? I'm not really sure. If we do watch a movie together, the way we connect is then talk about the movie. How do we
Yes.
feel about it? What was our favorite scene? What was our takeaway? What do we
Mhm.
want to do about it? What do we struggle with? What was not comfortable with us? So connecting is really about something deeper than just being physically together.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk more about that.
Yes.
So when we were, in East Asia serving the Lord in a bivocational context, we were busy.
Yes.
Bivocational meaning I had a full time job that I worked in the tech space.
Mhm.
It was incredibly stressful and busy because I was in a marketplace or in a country where you just have to work 6 days a week, and
Mhm.
your phone has always to be on, and you have to be always available. So,
Yes.
so it was just incredibly busy. Also, the opportunity is so good that it's like if you don't do it, you would miss it. So this
Mhm.
it just kind of draws you into more work, and then when you do well, then you get more work.
Yes, and you were also making a
Yeah,
big impact
right.
in your industry. Being able to found the
Yeah.
accelerator.
Right, I had a
Mhm.
tremendous favor to start a entrepreneurship type of incubator
Mhm.
to incubate tech startups, and I was able to work in the community and influence a lot of different organizations. So it
Mhm.
was very meaningful, very impactful time in the marketplace. I
Mhm.
thoroughly enjoyed it, but that comes with a price.
Yes. Uh, David was busy a lot, and and yet doing very meaningful things. And at the same time, my career was taking off. I started with writing magazine columns, and then my books became best-selling books, which took me all over the country on these speaking
Mhm.
tours. And it ended up that David has to hold things down, hold the fort down at home, and we both became very busy.
Yeah. I think many of us in the audience are also bivocational in the sense that we
Hmm.
hold a daytime job.
Hmm.
So we hold a
Yes.
daytime job, but at the same time, we're also serving the local church, or we are active in the local church and all the programs of the local church, meaning that we are either serving the church or through the church, we're doing outreaches. So we were
Hmm.
doing that as well. And that
Hmm.
just created an additional amount of stress because in the church based ministry, there were just so many open doors, so many opportunities, so many people wanting to know Jesus, wanting to be discipled, and it was just like endless ocean of people wanting to be helped and wanting to grow. And it's almost like you feel like you just can't say no, you cannot pass up anyone because there's such precious souls coming through the doors and asking you to help.
Yes, Lim Family Band was leading three worship services, leading worship for three services. Every service was packed out, 15 to 20 salvations per service. People were getting baptized, but with so many babies born, they needed to be raised as well.
Yeah. So we went into a season where we just became so busy, and we we're so focused on the work of the marketplace, work of the local church. So, and I think we developed, what I call hurry sickness.
Yes.
We're always in a rush. We're always trying to pack out the kids and go do this and do that.
Yes.
3 services, on Sundays and during the week. Then we also have to do, the regular work, and I also have to travel for work and rushing back on the weekends. So this busyness became, I think, it became a sickness.
Yes.
Right. We were burning out, and it's really interesting. The Chinese character for busyness, the leftmost character on the slide, it's combination of heart on the left, and on the right is death.
Yes.
So it's really busyness. You can think about busyness as the death of the heart.
Yes, and in fact, that's what we were, because we became very impatient with our kids. We didn't have time to observe their moods, and we had no patience for their bad feelings or any of the struggles that they had, because we just had to get going, and they just had to get it right the first time.
So let's talk about the application for each one. So one thing you'll find that when we deliver these workshops, we really don't just want to we want more than just communicating knowledge, also really help us to practice
action,
live that out.
Yes.
And this is how all the stories that we told you, it's really about us thinking of something and then we actually act it out. Otherwise, you just remaining thinking about things, having dreams, but never really live that out. So for first one, the challenge about busyness, obviously, we need to prioritize children before work and ministry.
And for us, it was a very painful lesson, because our children told us, Mom, Stephen, our youngest, said, Mom, Sunday are my least favorite days. I hate Sundays because that's the day when you guys love everybody else more than you love me. And that was very hurtful for our children. So we actually left China. We quit our jobs, left China at the end of 2013, so that we can reprioritize our lives and put our children first before work or ministry, which are all fully legitimate callings. But in our case, we really needed to reprioritize.
Right. And then there's wisdom in that prioritization. So it's not like we're saying you can only have one or the other.
Yes.
It is a juggling. It is a challenge, but it's making time. The key here is making time, making quality time where you're not so tired and drained, and be able to connect. So it's one thing that a practical thing that we are challenging you to do is to set up a regular screen-free, electronic-free dates with your kids.
Yes.
And then it's good to have, mom and dad to each make that one-on-one special date with the child.
Yes.
So if we had 3 kids, so as a dad, I make time to meet with each of them, so that they all feel they're special, that they get daddy's time, even if it's half an hour, even if it's nighttime reading a book together. That those moments are very important. And the key here is regular. It's not like once every month or so. I think something has to be happening on a weekly basis. I also make a big deal about every night putting them to bed.
Yes.
Reading with them when they were younger, and of course, obviously, when they're older, have a conversation with them, and just kind of care about what's going on in their lives, and then have coffee times when they get much older.
Yes.
So all my kids had coffee time with dad, where I take them out, Starbucks or whatever, and just sit for an hour, at least an hour together, and chit chat. Sometimes it's not me trying to drive any agenda. It's just be there
Yes.
for them.
In fact, that's what the kids want. Every time they come home, they first thing they do is set up appointments with each of us to get dates with us. That's a big priority with them.
Yeah, they know that time with dad is safe as well. So
Mhm.
we're not talking about that this is a grilling time. Hey, give me your grades, give me your performance data. It's not a performance review like we would do at in corporate world. It's really heart to heart connection with them.
Mhm.
And I emphasize screen free because you want to put away your phones. You want to
Yes.
say, hey guys, let's just put the smartphone away and really just be eye to eye, heart to heart in this next hour.
That's right, because the person in front of you is the most
Right.
important person in the world.
Right. So that's one-on-one kind of dates. And the other thing, the second one we recommend is
Yes.
once a week to have a Sabbath together. And the
Mhm.
Sabbath is more than just a meal. It's a time where you can go hiking and spending
Mhm.
time maybe playing board games. Again, reducing the use of electronics and
Yes.
screens and just be with each other.
Yes.
Do something fun, do something outdoors.
Or
give away.
even if you're lazy, just sit around in your pajamas and read.
Yeah.
That's fun too.
Yeah, one thing we enjoy doing is just cooking a meal together.
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
So Sabbath, a meal and some time together, so that could just be half a day or an evening, okay? So that's what we would encourage you to do.
So this is the first call to action
Yeah.
is to make sure you prioritize and have concrete actions blocked out in your calendar, okay? So now the second challenge from our busyness is that we get so impatient that we end up just criticizing
Mhm.
them for what they're not doing right rather than affirming them. And the picture that I have here is this of a baby elephant. In Thailand, when they capture these elephants from the wild, they chain their legs to a pole in the middle, and the elephants will violently protest and try to shake away the chain, and they can't shake from it. So you'll notice them in a circle, and that's the radius of the chain. They cannot go outside of that circle. So after a period of struggle, they give up and then they stay within that circle. And then the owners of the elephants take off the chain, and the baby elephants no longer run. So they don't go outside of that bound anymore because that imaginary chain is still there.
Mhm.
So our words, whether it's criticizing or affirmation, especially our criticisms, are the poles and the chains that keep them within the bounds of certain expectations that they can never shake off of. And we want our children to be free to explore themselves and grow beyond those bounds. And that takes us, that requires us to be very, very, very deliberate with our words to affirm and call out the positive things in them.
Yeah, and Chinese Americans
Mm-hmm.
in colleges are well known to have a lot of self-image issues and lacking confidence. I think this has a lot to do with growing up in an environment where there are a lot of criticisms.
Yes.
And the way I would describe this as sort of performance-driven conditional love.
Yes.
If you get your A's, okay, then we love you. I mean, we don't say that, but that's kind of how the kids are taking it.
Yes.
They are only loved. It's only acceptable when they bring home A's.
Or we all have our stories of where, in seventh grade, I had all A's except for B in PE. I bring home my report card, and what do my parents do? They ask, why did you get that B in PE? So that's very hurtful, and that's our pole and the chain. So part of what it means when we are too busy to notice our children is we become blind, and we don't take time to observe them and notice what they're good at. So we really need to create the time to deliberately see them, the positives in them, and call out and affirm them. And our affirmations and praise act like sunlight, and our kids are like sunflowers. Our praise directs the growth of our children. When we affirm something, they want to do better there because they desire our praise. So our praise defines their right behavior, so it acts like sunlight, and our criticisms acts like that pole that restrains the elephant. So there are many things that we can be praising our kids. We want to stay away from result orientation and performance orientation, but call out the things that they can grow in through their efforts. And this this PowerPoint has a lot of such descriptive character like affirmations that we can use to affirm our kids.
We also do a lot of inner healing ministries
Yes.
because we ourselves have gone through inner healing. And one of the top issues in these inner healing engagements that people, especially among Chinese Americans or Asian Americans, people never felt they were loved by their parents.
Yes.
And we call them daddy issues or
Mhm.
mommy issues. But a lot of us grew up really not in an environment where there's affirmation, hugs, and kisses, and being told you are lovely and that you are lovable. We know that from the Bible, how God the Father treats us, that we are called His beloved, and He sings and dances over us. And this is the kind of desires and the expression we want to pass on to our kids. We want our kids to know God, obviously, but yet when we are parenting the way we do with criticisms and conditional love, what are we communicating to them? We're conveying to them that that perhaps God is also conditional like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the way we've been teaching about this is that to the extent that we ourselves have received um, the understand the God's love for us, we can then pass on to our kids. And one of the best gifts you can give to your children is that they are affirmed in their identity, that they are loved, they are lovable, and they are lovely. Especially if you have young ladies in your household, young teenager, they're in that critical age where the daddy really needs to be there to say, as a man, I'm telling you that you are lovely, because you don't want young woman to grow up having to wait for and another young man, one of her peers, to tell her that she is lovely. You want the daddy to be the first one to say that and to impress that upon her.
Yes, and they don't have to do a thing to earn it.
That's right.
They themselves are lovely and lovable.
That's right. That self-esteem is so important.
Mm-hmm.
So a while back, I was just reading scriptures one day, and there's a lot of texting here, but nothing's highlighted. But
Judges.
Yeah, but it's Judges 13. It's really a story about Samson's father. And when the angel came to announce the birth of this special child, I was so impressed by Manoah. Manoah is Samson's father, and Manoah twice asked the angel, what's the manner by which I should raise my child, and and I think that's the attitude we need to have as well. Each child is a precious gift from the Lord. And like Manoah, as a father or as a mother, right, as a parent, we should seek the Lord. What is the divine design for this, boy, for this girl, and what are you calling them to become, and what is my part as a parent? How am I to raise this, beautiful child that you've entrusted to our care?
Yes.
And that's what this passage of Judges 13 is about. It's this God-fearing parents, asking God, seeking God for wisdom to raise a child they have been entrusted. So all of us as parents, we are just stewards.
Yes.
We are stewarding, for 18, 20 some years of life of a young person that will, grow up one day and become a man or woman of God. And we want to prepare them well.
Yes. Call out who they're meant to be.
Yeah.
I remember we were speaking together in Dubai, and someone asked our eldest son Caleb, so what was the best thing that the most effective thing, successful thing that your parents did in raising you? And he said, my parents constantly reminded me of who I was, because Caleb, the name Caleb means courage, and my parents are always reminding me, you are courageous, you are meant to choose the courageous thing. And he said that was the best thing that we did in raising him. So are you calling out your child for who God has created him or her to be?
Right. So Rosanna mentioned earlier about how 2013 we left China to return because of the burnout. So we decided to really take a year off and spend more time with our kids. And Stephen was still before college at that time.
Seventh grade?
The older two boys were off to college.
Yes.
So that's when we returned, moved back to North America, and we decided to go on this sort of road trip and a sabbatical year with Stephen. So we packed them in a car and just drove all over. So when we were in Yellowstone, in this amazing place that God has created, where you have such a variety of geological and natural wonders, and we began to show Stephen about the fun, right?
Yes.
The joy of taking pictures. And so meanwhile, I've always enjoyed photography. I go about taking my pictures my way. And then Stephen gets this little, idiot-proof camera, and he began to take amazing pictures
Yes.
in angles and in perspectives and composition that I would never think of. I was like, wow, child, you got some talent here.
Yes.
Because I realized that he has a different perspectives on the world. He gets really close, he gets really low, he gets to the ground. He looks through things rather than just at things. So those perspectives created very different type of pictures that I would have never taken, and I began to encourage him
Yes.
in that. And just because I just recognize there's something special about that. And
he really flourished because he decided that he was going to go into art.
Yeah, well, but I mean, it's also because he was, interested in ceramics as a child. But yeah, so he pursued art, and we encouraged him some more. We had, a family of engineers. His two older brothers were, engineering majors, and
we all love math.
We are all tech people.
Yes.
So here we are, someone who's not good at math and choosing art over everything else.
By the way, that's his Instagram account, all his art.
Yes, he's definitely an outlier, but again, right? Each child is special, and just so that God says Stephen is going to be an artist.
Yes.
That my favor upon him is to be the creative person to produce art. So who are we to say, well, you should go to engineering school, or like mom and dad, or like your two older brothers? Hey, why is your math so bad? Like, no, everybody, in our family had done calculus in high school, so how come you still,
Yes. So we really had to be like Manoah. Lord, give us wisdom to know how to raise this child.
Yeah. But a child is so precious that when we appreciate them, when we affirm them, they literally grow. So this is a chart, right? As we appreciate, using words, using our body gestures, hug them, to comfort them, to embrace them in all their ups and downs, their value literally grows, right? So as much as we want to see our investments appreciate, we all know housing prices in the Bay Area appreciates year after year after year, and we love that. Well, we need to love more about our kids' value being appreciated, their stature, their self-image, their self-understanding are growing, every day through our words, through our actions of love.
So here's our challenge to you.
Yeah. So each day, give them a hug. In the morning, don't wait, and don't make it conditional. Oh, you gotta eat and I'll hug you. Hug them. Whether they're clean or they're dirty, when they are obedient or not, or sassy, and tell them that you love them. Look at them straight in the eyes and say, "I just love you. You are lovable. You are lovely." Okay, do that, mom and dad, and bless them at night. Right, just have those moments where you can really look at them in the eyes and say, "I love you." Not because what you do, not because what you bring home, because of who you are.
Yes, I once heard someone, a parenting expert say that when a child is most unlovable is when they need your love the most.
That's right. That's right. So think about this little project you can do. I think that might be kind of fun, is to make a kind of a baseball cards. I don't know if any of you collect baseball cards, or our kids collect Pokemon cards. We always talk about these different Pokemon characters and all the points for different characteristics and abilities and powers. And each of your children have superpowers because God has called them and given them spiritual gifts. They have a unique shape, right? They have certain passions and desires and dreams and aspirations. Well, write them down. Make a little card, stick on picture. Today, with all the computer, software and the color printers, you can easily produce.
If not, just use pencil and paper, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Do a little project, and then just present it to your child. Say, "Hey, this is how I think of you. You're my little hero."
Yes.
These
are your stats.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a superstar in my eyes.
Yes. So we'd like to go into the third challenge, and that is entering into their world. Let me start by sharing this fairy tale story. There once was a prince who thought he was a rooster. and it was this, he got this illness. He thought he was a rooster, and he ended up hiding under his bed, and he refused to come out.
Yeah.
And his father, the king, became very, very worried about him, and tried to bring all kinds of doctors to come and cure him of this mental illness, but nobody could. So the king gave this announcement to the whole country and said, whoever can cure my son
Mm-hmm.
will get like this big sum of gold, and will be invited into my palace. All kinds of people tried. They couldn't get the prince to come out from under his bed. So there was this pauper who asked to try it. So he entered the prince's room, and after about a week, the pauper and the prince came out together. And the prince was in his right mind and acting normal. And the king was astounded, saying, wow, that is so amazing. What kind of magic did you perform? What kind of formulation did you do to cure my son? And the pauper says, well, I made myself a rooster. I pretended I was a rooster, and I crawled under the bed with him, and we pecked around for food together.
Mm-hmm.
And then I talked rooster talk with him, and then I slowly brought him into my world, and he was willing to come out with me to see the human world. So that's kind of a little bit like us and our children. How often do we demand that our kids have to enter our world and think our way and see things our way? And how often are we willing to become like little roosters and crawl under the bed with them to peck for rice with them? When we are so busy with ministry, with work, with doing things, with being serious, we really forget that our children have a very rich inner world that we don't want to be part of. We think that it's too childish, their world.
Yeah, one of the things that I enjoy doing, perhaps I was just left alone, as a child, when I just find ways to play. Is that I enjoy playing. I you know, I love books, so I'm a kind of a bookwormish, but I also enjoy playing. So one thing I do with my kids, I enjoy doing is when ever since they were young, we play a lot.
Yeah, just horse around.
Yeah, I make sure that it's not all books and study, because I kind of follow that principle. What says all books and study makes Tommy,
a boring boy.
Well, yeah. So a lot of study breaks, a lot of chance to take them out. We like to go on adventures. So when we would take our kids to rock climbing when they were really young, and we go on RV trips. We go, to travel the world. I mean, we just enjoy playing together, horsing around, just wrestling, on the floor, whatever it takes. I'm not afraid to get dirty. I'm not afraid to get hurt. Just enjoy playing.
And I grew up in a more traditional environment where play, Panwan and Aiwan, play was actually looked on as a bad thing. So I was very hesitant. I felt like a child had to be serious all the time. But I began to see the wisdom of learning to play. And my mentor says, Sally Clarkson, he says, if you want a child to work hard and study hard, you have to play hard with them to earn the right.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we really needed to do to enter into our kids' world was when in high school they started getting into heavy metal music. Their school was of such a culture where there's so many bands that are forming, and our kids formed. I know Caleb formed 2 bands, and they were part of these really serious rocker bands, and we really had to overcome our own images of what heavy metal was to enter into their world, to understand the language that they spoke. And we would go to these concerts where these people were just shaking their heads and waving their hair around and be their biggest fans. And we learned in the process that the reason they became so enamored with heavy metal music was because it was the music. Regular rock music was too simplistic for them to express all the musical concepts that they learned in classical music, and only heavy metal music was robust enough for them to be able to write interesting music. So without entering into their world, we just really couldn't really understand that about heavy metal music.
Yeah. So play is really about life that's outside of work and school and church, right? There's a huge amount of hours that people are devoted to play.
Yes.
Adults play too, right? We travel, we go, eat well, we hang out with friends and do things with them. So if you don't start playing with the kids when they were young, when they get older, they don't want to play with you anymore because you're just not fun, right? You're just boring parents who
Too serious.
all you can think about is grades and school.
Yes.
So if you want to, be in their life, you can't just walk in when they're 15 and say, hey, I want to get to know your world. Well, they're like, who are you? Like you are my supervisor. You are my, foreman. You are my, what is this that you're saying? You're
the warden, prison
you're
warden.
the prison warden, right? You want me to stay in my room and study all the time.
Yes.
That's not gonna fly. But if they also know you as a parent who can play, who can get down, who can, have fun outside of, work and church, well, then you have access to their hearts.
Yes.
And that's what we're talking about, is having that connection where the kids, your children can allow you into their lives. And so when they got into the heavy metal band, we, of course, we're there. We're there to support them. We love them.
Yes.
We may not always approve of,
kinds of music,
the kind of stuff that, certainly we don't have to, but love means we are there for them.
Yes.
In spite of, whether we agree or disagree.
Yes.
Yeah.
And later on, as they became adults, then they really got into working out and tasting fine wines. My two older boys are into buying hibiki, or the Japanese whiskeys. They will continue to invite us in because to them, we're safe people.
Yeah. And there's two ways, right? Once they get to the age where they start learning things, we are very interested in what they're learning, what they're doing, and we become students.
Yes.
So it's two-way street, right? When they read a book, I would say, well, that sounds interesting, and I will go to the library and check it out.
Yes.
So a lot of my books that I've read, the last 6 books, I think more than half came from my son's reading list.
Yes.
When they read it, they shared it, and I said, oh, that sounds really good. After all, your family, your taste wouldn't be that far off.
Yes.
We took the kids rock climbing, when they were a kid. Maybe they don't even remember that. But now, embedded in the DNA is this idea of rock climbing, because they say, oh, it's problem solving. It's like this amazing thing that you have to use your head, and then your body has to move a certain way, and it's very mentally, physically challenging. They love it. So all 3 boys are like totally into rock climbing, and they advance very rapidly because they're so devoted to the sport.
Yes, and it's for no other value than to enjoy it. It's not to help them get better jobs, higher pay, get into better schools. It's just because we enjoy it. So one of the big points I want to emphasize is that there are no good or bad hobbies. It just is something to be enjoyed. We don't make a judgment on it. We enjoy it together. And so many times we as Chinese American parents, we feel like it has to have some other external
or
value.
Educational value.
Right, exactly. But when we can enjoy it together, then there's emotional connection.
Yeah, so mom and dad just kind of lead them out of who you are. Just let your own interests come out. If you don't have any interest, well, you need to consider some, right?
Yes.
And for example,
learning from your kids.
Yeah, for example, right, we discover escape room.
Yes.
Together, and then we just say, let's try this, and then we all love it, and now we do it every time we come together.
Yes.
Every time we have family reunion, we make time to go check out a new escape room. They're everywhere, and it's group problem solving. Right, we kind of enjoy the challenge of solving problems together, and it's teamwork.
Yes.
So Lin family, Tim Lin goes out there trying to break records in every escape room.
Yes. So I just wanted to leave this word from Catherine Wallace, a parenting author, with you. She says, listen earnestly to anything your children want to tell you, no matter what. If you don't listen eagerly to the little stuff when they are little, then they won't tell you the big stuff when they're big, because to them, all of it has always been big stuff. So we need to stop judging and listen and just accept them at face value. So the other side of this entering into their world is that we become really good at lecturing, but become very bad at listening or asking questions. So one of the things that we know is that we tend to resist other people preaching at us, but we're excited by our own discoveries. When we become parents, though, we become really good at preaching, but we become really bad at asking questions and helping our kids to discover. So I would like to spend the next few minutes to talk about how we want to learn the skill of switching from preaching to questioning. When we teach parenting classes, we often talk about how parents' roles need to change. From when they were very little, we are their teachers. Then we become their coaches to teach them certain life skills, to become consultants that when they have a question or are wrestling with something, they come to ask for help or advice, and then we become their friends and fans who learn from them. But one of the things that's really critical as our kids become teenagers is that we need to become very good at asking questions. So we all know about the Socratic method of teaching. We need to bring that into our parenting and learn to become very good coaches through asking questions. So just to give you some concrete exercises, and I know many of you probably already know how to do this, but let's just review this again. Here I have two examples, and I split it into three mini ways. So the first one is your child forgot to bring his homework to school and calls you to bring it to him. What is your reaction? What would you say? Would you be tempted to preach at him and say, I told you you need to double check everything. Why do you do this? You might ask him a question, but it's more of just a lecturing or to criticize him. Okay. The second example is that your child forgot to do homework, and your child's teacher contacted you because it was a pretty important assignment. So let's see. If we wanted to use powerful questions, our first attempt might be asking these types of questions. For example, I'm so busy today. Why are you so forgetful? How am I going to do this? Are these helpful questions? No, they actually sound more like criticisms, don't they? They sound like rhetorical questions that already have an answer. Your child forgot to do homework. Why did you forget? Or you need to put this on your to-do list. You just straight out tell him, right? Okay, so how can we turn that into a more useful and powerful question that they're willing to think through themselves and it becomes their own discovery? Well, the thing about powerful questions we need to ask ourselves, is this question for my benefit and goal or my child's benefit? The second question is this focus on the past, what he did wrong, or on the future, how he can do it better? The third part of powerful questions is that, is this question used to correct his past mistakes or to help build him up for his future skills? So with those three items in mind, let's try again at asking questions. Now, the questions that I asked before are actually leading questions. What are leading questions? They're very specific. They already have suggestions embedded in them. For example, you should put this in your to-do list. Okay, that's already the even if you phrase it as a question, there's already a suggestion in it, and the question already contains a desired answer. Why did you forget? It's not really about how to solve this problem, but about placing blame. So we want to shift from asking leading questions that lead to specific answers to open-ended questions that are more along categories, that are more topical, and that are read questions that are open-ended questions. Okay, so let's go again at the green one. So instead of saying why are you forgetful, how about this? This is an interesting problem. So what are you going to do about it? Now that does not place blame on anybody, but it helps the child to come up with his own creative solutions to this problem. Maybe the child isn't thinking about asking you to go get it. Maybe the child is gonna try and hand in his homework another way. Okay, so it's not placing the blame, but it's asking him to solve his own problem. Let's see the next one. Why did you forget? How about if we say, what options do you have now? Now that you forgot your homework, what options do you have? So how will this impact your goals for this semester? That will help the child think through this problem and its consequences of what happened when he forgets his homework. and it's not placing judgment or blame, and it's not leading to any specific outcome. Or instead of saying, you need to put this on your to-do list, how about asking him, so what's the next best step? Okay, so then you will help the child through these open-ended questions to make his own discoveries about how he should solve this problem in the future. Famous novelist Milan Kundera said this: the stupidity of people comes from having an answer for everything. The wisdom of the novel comes from having a question for everything. So what I'd like to encourage parents to do when you are cultivating intimate relationships with your children is to become an expert at asking questions, asking open-ended questions, and become a dummy, become a stupid person when it comes to having an answer for everything. Let's not be a know-it-all, because know-it-alls are very, very annoying, and they don't make for very good friendships. So these are some typical questions that you can ask your child every time you coach them through a situation. The first one is in reflecting. We do this with our worship team or any teams that we lead. So what have we done well here? What did I do well? And instead of saying, what did I do wrong, ask, so what did I miss? So that it's not something that's a right or wrong value, but what did I miss? The third one is, so what will I do differently next time? By, what do I need to begin doing? What do I need to stop doing? So these three major questions will generally help coach your child to be more reflective about how to solve problems for him or herself, rather than depending on you for all the answers. So that comes to our challenge, and that is the third challenge is that we would like you to go home and ask your child to teach you something new without judging. Do not judge if it's a favorite computer game, if it's, I don't know. In our high school days, Dungeons and Dragons was considered this taboo game, but now I heard that this is all the rage. It's like the hip thing for kids to do. So let's not judge, but ask your child to teach you something. Now, initially, they might think, wait, mom and dad, are you like trying to trap me or something? Are you trying to catch me doing something wrong? But just reassure them that you're going to be safe people. So they can teach you something, whether it's a favorite game, a song, tell you about their favorite hero. It could be a singer or a sports figure, their favorite video on TikTok. Or show you something about his or her world or culture. We've asked our kids, so what are the top 10 most popular Vine videos? That's something that's already a past trend. But what are the things that you are really into these days? And have them show you their world and culture. So these are the three challenges that we talk about, and we're going to now pull it all together. Why are we talking about parenting when we are talking about being a Great Commission family? Because remember, let's go back to the beginning. Remember, we had said that when the floods come, the family is going to be an ark of refuge for many others. If our family is not a loving family where we have real connections, real relationships, it's not going to be an ark for anyone. In fact, our children won't want to be in this ark because there's no relationship here. So God's design is for the family to be an ark of safety and refuge when the floods are coming. And we can certainly see that there's all kinds of floods that are coming right now. So how are we going to weather these floods? I'd like to share this scripture with you. In Matthew 24:12 says, at that time, which is our time, because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. And therefore, the most important thing in our times right now is to guard our hearts. So Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Don't judge whether your child is into heavy metal music or some game that you think is bad, or reading Harry Potter for that matter that talks about magic. What what's most important is to enter your child's inner life, and then to guard his or her heart, and to protect your hearts together. It's all about make the relationship that you have with your children and the heart connection. That is the most important. Let's not worry about form or how things appear to others. First Peter 4:8 says, above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. Whether it's in our nuclear families, our extended families, or our church families, let us not get so sidetracked with ministry, programs, doctrines that we forget the heart connection. So we'd like to wrap up by reminding everyone about kingdom-driven families and about the Great Commission families. Because Genesis 12:1-2 tells us that we are blessed because God wants us to be a blessing. In the Abrahamic covenant, the Lord said to Abraham, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to a land that I will show you. And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great so that you can be a blessing. So what we would like to encourage all parents to do as these times get turbulent, and they are getting very turbulent, is instead of protecting our kids from all the evil that's around, to equip them to engage culture, to transform culture. Instead of this evacuation, let's run away from this evil, wicked world, let's have an occupation mentality to equip our kids to enter into the world, to engage it, and to transform it.
Right. It's our responsibility to think about, well, do we protect them or do we empower them? And the path that the Lin family have chosen is that we want them to grow. We want to take on increasing amount of responsibility. We want them to see the world through God's eyes. We will want them to be engaged in uncomfortable conversations, even within our family and the current issues of the day. Like we have had many conversations about the pandemic, how the government is handling the coronavirus, and the BLM protests, injustice, systemic racism. We have our different point of views, but we like to discuss them and think about them and struggle through them. And of course, I will always ask our kids, so what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it?
So the last challenge is
something that we have done ourselves, is to find ways to serve people that cannot reciprocate. This is what Jesus talked about in Matthew 25, right? To give unto the least of those who cannot give back, who cannot even perhaps appreciate what you have done for them. But that's our, mission of charity. And so what we have done as a young family that we can ask you to do right now is maybe perhaps befriend a family from the African American background. Really understand their journey, their struggle, right? You read about it, you hear about it, but what's it really like to get to know them? And to understand them. What we have done in the past is to, as individuals, as a family, Rosanna and I try to help this unemployed black men in our neighborhood who came to our church to seek for help, and then through the pastoral's recommendation, us and another couple,
2 other families,
got together and say, hey, let's work together to help. So we provide practical, financial guidance, budgeting, got him a used car, and help him to find a job, and just kind of try to get his, feedback on the ground, and to take care of his family. He had several kids to take care of, very young children to take care of, and they were on welfare. So
and they still come to our church today.
But that was one of the early points where we try to walk into another culture, walk into another into another world. And as a church, later on in a different church, we did a partnership with an inner city church that's predominantly Black and Hispanics.
Yes.
A lot of people that came out of prisons.
Yes.
Mean dudes with tattoos and everything.
Yes.
So
But
together,
they love Jesus.
Yeah. So together with Victory Outreach, we did a lot of street evangelism. Go to the Skid Row and just to understand what's going on in our inner cities and what is really plaguing the inner cities, the streets. What's homelessness? What's really going on? Are people really into drugs? Are there really mental health issues? So by partnering and getting into our urban environment, I think we learn a lot from this partner church as well as being out there on the streets with them.
Yes.
The other thing that's really good to do is just be a big brother, sister to the families in our communities that are in either financial or educational challenge space.
Yes, or there are families where the single mom needs to work 2 jobs just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And you could have a child, the child over after school so that they will get dinner and some homework help. So some very concrete things that you can be doing one small little baby step at a time.
Right.
So we will conclude our talk and go into Q&A. But before we do that, just wanted to let you know that you can follow us on our website, simpledelight.life. It's bilingual, and these are some of the books that we published in the Chinese language that are available electronically or in paper format from China, and our WeChat public account in Chinese.
Right, and one of the things that we enjoy doing in this new chapter in our lives is to coach couples and coach individuals. Coach, for me, I coach startup entrepreneurs as well on how they can be excellent.
Yes.
How they can really integrate their faith with what they do. So that's something we really enjoy. Just sitting down, having a meal together, and just spend life together, do life together, and walk alongside and walk with you.
Yes, and David has quit Microsoft, so we're in a new empty nest season where we really want to fully invest into people. So with that, we're going to go into our Q&A. Thanks.
Hi, welcome back. Hope you have all enjoyed the session by Dave and Rosanna. So for me, for one, I wish that I've heard the challenge about being a more playful father, spending more time to play with my kids. So, my daughters, they are older now, but I will try to still be more playful and spend time with them more. So, for the following time, we are going to have a Q&A session. So, we would need to get off this YouTube session and then get on to the Zoom link that is directly beneath this window. So I also want to make a plug about tomorrow, the Sunday school time, 11:15 to 12:15, and Dave and Rosanna are going to do a talk on being Chinese American Christians in this turbulent times. So as you know, the geopolitical situation has changed vastly in the last year, and the US and China are in real risk of being totally decoupled. So what does that mean for us as Chinese American Christians? Is that a liability or is that an asset? Where is our true, or what is our true identity? Where does it lie? So those are topics that will be addressed. So, okay, so without further delay, let's get on to the Zoom link, and I will see you there at the Q&A session.